Testing, ladies and gentlemen.
Test.
Whores and sluts. Itty bitty titties and pancake butts. We invite you on a quest. We'll give you our best. Make sure you study, 'cause life's a test. Bars.
Drop it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second episode. In reality, we're not going to bullshit you. This is like the fourth episode we've done. But this is probably the second one we're going to put out. We did a podcast last night. You kind of, when you do something, you want to go back, study it, see how you did. I dropped a lot of fuck bombs. I started realizing that. I don't know if it's nerves. I don't think it's nerves. I think it's you start using fuck as you know?
I think that there's a lot of passion behind the word fuck.
There is a lot of passion. There's a lot of passion behind bad words in general. I think a good fuck, what the fuck is going on here, can go a long way.
It sort of immediately puts you in that state of mind that, oh, I got to pay attention to what they're saying because they have so much emotion. So like if someone, in the background goes, fuck, you immediately tense up and you think something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think it also matters on the person, because I think after a while you can get desensitized to someone who just says fuck all the time. Like me, a lot of you probably wrote me off as an idiot just cussing all the time. But you know when your parents that don't cuss, I'm sure people have parents that don't cuss, they drop the F-bomb and you're like, holy shit. Like that's a life-changing moment.
Finally you hear your parents say a word that you would never thought they would say.
It does have a lot of power. It's weird that cuss words have a lot of power because they're fucking words. You fucking... Dude, there I go again. You're just using your mouth to make a sound. And it's just deemed as bad. It's inappropriate. Because what's the real difference between when someone says this freaking guy, or this fucking guy, or this clown, or this fuckhead, Like there's no real difference between that. But for some reason, when you make a sound out of your mouth, it carries this weight. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I believe that. Words are words. Obviously.
Shout out to words.
You can say them to hurt people. You can say them to add a little flavor. You can use them to spark interest. But at the end of the day, you can sit there and argue that, he or she said something that offended you. But who cares? It's words. Move on.
Let's get into a hot topic. How do you feel about the N-word?
I think that's a perfect example of sometimes people obsessing over words.
Yeah.
So I get both sides of the story. So one of them is, why can't we say it and why can they say it to themselves? I understand that. And
what do you mean they?
Black people.
Ooh, we're edgy here at Dos Leos. Nah, I agree.
And then you have the other side of this story that, no one should be calling that because then it's derogatory.
Yeah.
It's, it's just not, it shouldn't be done. But at the same time, if we live in a country that promotes freedom of speech and everything that comes along with that, I mean, at the end of the day, if they want to call themselves that, they can. But we know that we should not say that word because it brings a lot of bad past memories. So as a society, we should just move on.
There's a comedian that talked about that, and he was like, one of my friends says, man, why can't we say the N-word? And he says, maybe because we misused it in the past, Maybe we didn't use it right. But I feel when it comes to that, I don't, when you say, certain people use it, no, it's not okay. It's okay for some people to use it, some people to not. I honestly don't even like to think about it. Like, I don't like when people use it racially. I don't care when people use it, to call their homie their friend. Because, I lived in Puerto Rico for almost 4 years, and Puerto Ricans say the N-word all the time. It's just like homie,
Really?
Yeah. And it was weird at first, but it just became normal. And I think that's what it is. It becomes normal. But I think when you give words power, that's when you start to focus on negative stuff and you start to nitpick kind of stuff that shouldn't matter. That's just you're gonna lose your mind trying to control it. Like, I don't know. I've never taken offense to racial stuff. I've heard crazy. I'm half white. I'm half Puerto Rican. I've heard crazy stuff. I've heard, cracker, all that stuff. I just never care. And when people make racial jokes to me, I find it funny. If it's a good joke, I think it's funny. Puerto Ricans get called spics, but I've never cared about racial stuff like that, especially if it's a joke. If it's good, it's funny,
No, I agree with that. And it's funny because I'll put myself in that situation, as everyone always thinks that, here in Southern California, that I'm Mexican because I'm brown. And should I take offense? No. Does it bother me? No. All I say is, no, I'm not Mexican. I'm Colombian. And sort of move on. If someone were to call me wetback or bean or, all these racial terms that go along with being brown, I never get mad. I actually look at the person and, some people might think that I'm, in the process of getting mad or I'm trying to stare them down, but I look at them actually almost shocked that people will still say things to try to get under your skin.
Oh, there's a lot of anger.
At the end of the day, you can call me whatever you want because I'll walk out of that conversation going, well, clearly I'm not a wetback because my back is not wet. Did I illegally come here? No, I did not illegally come here. So it's just funny because I think it goes back to the simple fact is, do you take things at heart? And if you do, should you be able to move on? And I think that racial slurs is something that you said, we give too much power to it. And I think also with the whole political correct words, I think that in itself shouldn't even be used because immediately everyone's like, well, that's not politically correct. It's like, who cares what politically correct is? Because the funny thing is, okay, here in Palmdale, growing up, you don't really have political correct words. You say what you say, and everyone is almost on the same page. But anytime you go into the sort of big city, I feel like that's when you have to be careful what you say. And I mean, I grew up with a lot of minorities, being, again, everyone from Asian to brown to black. I mean, every single color you can think of.
Shout out minorities.
And the great part about it is we never really had problems talking to each other. We never had problems saying anything that would bug you. Obviously, sometimes you would have fights, which happen, but it's more territorial fight. It's not racial fight.
No, that makes sense. I was totally brain farted on what I was going to say.
I think that the biggest thing is that you should be able to talk with a little bit of common sense. Meaning, if you know that you shouldn't say the N-word, then you probably shouldn't say it. And if you think you have earned the right to say it, then make sure to say it around the people that you know are okay with it. And don't think that just because they're okay with it, you can categorize every single other person with the same color can be said that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Going back to that, have you seen YouTube clips of, there's funny ones on there, of people who accidentally let the N-word slip in front of black people? And they usually get their ass kicked. But that goes into another thing. There's prank videos that are blowing up on YouTube. They are the most ridiculous things ever. And some of them go too far. Some of them are borderline funny, the prank ones. But there's ones about doing black jokes in the hood and messing with black people. It's ridiculous because it's all these skinny white kids and from the good side of town that are just going to these bad places and trying to do things like sell guns to black people and all this stuff. And it's so racist. It's so racist. And it's like, I think it's like taking things back. It's making people take a step back from trying to stop racism and everything, because you have all these people liking these videos, and one of these kids are going to get shot. I literally showed Matt a video last night of these kids trying to sell drugs in the hood. They were going up to people being like, yo, I got the drugs, you want some meth, blah blah blah. And people were like, yo, get the fuck out of here. And like, you know, I'll post a link in the YouTube video so you can watch this. But they're getting guns pulled on them and shit like that, which is almost like a stereotype because they are getting guns pulled on them and everything. Yeah. But it's stuff like that. Like, is that racist? Do you think that's racist to do black hood or black jokes in the hood?
I think that it goes back to just plain ignorance. You know what I mean? Like, obviously these kids want attention. Yeah. They want to do something. I feel like Jackass in itself has created a big cult following. Yeah. Doing things that, you know, have never been done or are very edgy. And like you said, these kids know that they're going to get a knife pulled out on them or a gun punched in the face.
They want people to attack them because for some fucking reason we're drawn to that.
Good video content. So, again, I view it as ignorance. Would I do that? No. Will I watch that? Yes. But at the end of the day, am I going to sit there and say anything? No, because it's almost like just trash.
Yeah.
It's funny for 5 seconds and then you move on.
What do you mean not say anything? Like you're not going to say don't do it?
Yeah, it's almost like it would be a waste of breath or a waste of energy for me to immediately go, I'm going to protest these guys and I'm going to make a Facebook fan page that's going to try to petition that these guys stop doing what they're doing. Again, are they hurting anyone? No. Are they doing pranks?
It seems like they're making some people mad, you know, and making... Because if you know, I saw one of the videos on World Star Hip Hop, and it seems like it's fueling fire of, you know, racism and stuff like that. And I think if someone, you know, came up to me and did a prank based off of my skin color or something like that, that would probably fuel something in me. Like, it's the same thing like when you see someone say something racist to you. You're like, you just can't believe that ignorance exists.
Correct.
And most of us, we don't have this calm, cool collect of like, we are all one, brother. You're just misguided. You don't see yourself in me, blah, 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 you know? I think for me, I don't know if I could be that calm and cool to where I'm like, oh, this is not what you want to be doing. This is dumb. You know, put your energy somewhere else. I might react bad, you know, if someone did something, you know, violated my personal space. And I think that's one of the things that goes too far when people start doing things like that, is when you violate someone's space in a rude way. There's, you know, and when you you say, I think that's the right thing to do, is to not petition it and not to say. I mean, we're going to probably make people go watch these videos now, so we're helping.
Correct.
The prank videos, but fuck it.
Again, I think that it's more of the state of mind. So, yeah, you might be a little mad, but what can you do to change someone else? You can't. Yeah. They're going to keep doing it because that's what they want to do. You have to, it's almost like that mindset is, if you ignore them long enough, they will move on.
Yeah.
So, clearly, the only thing that we can do is just go, wow, I can't believe that they're still doing this. Move on.
That kind of attitude, it kind of goes hand in hand. It's the same blueprint of kids that shoot up schools. Because just like they see that there's an outlet for it. There's a platform. Right now, prank videos are hot. They're the thing, hot topic. And they see it's an easy way to generate views. You don't, you know, and I'm not dissing anyone who makes prank videos. If, you know, I'm sure after a while it develops into something really good. I know people who actually do prank videos. But I think it goes hand in hand with the same thing as kids that shoot up schools, because it's a platform that's rewarding negative behavior. And, you know, because with all this crazy stuff with shooting schools and everything, it's gone fucking insane. And I really think it's because as society, with fucking how corrupt news coverage is and everything, and just playing off people's, the way, you know, when there's a fight in a school, everybody fucking runs to it. You flock to it because it's violent and it's bad, and it's just, oh my god, you want to see it, just like you want to see celebrities go crazy. That's why you never really, all the tabloids never say, oh, so and so donated this, oh, they did this, they opened a fund in Africa, whatever. You only see, oh, they had an affair. Turn to page 26 to see the steamy
They check
picture.
themselves as into rehab.
Yeah, you want to see that. And maybe it goes back to us always, you know, when we see someone else doing bad, it makes us feel good about ourselves. You know, it's that mentality of, look at these fools. At least I got it together, you know?
Yeah.
It makes you feel okay. But the news channels, they love a good school shooting, because guess what? They're making money off those advertising, because naturally we're into that shit. We like to see
The
it.
ratings go up.
Yeah. And I think there's like a responsibility. That's why I don't like to watch news on, you know, TV. I don't like to, because so much of it, there's YouTube videos you can search where it just shows news channels repeating the same exact news story word for word, showing that it's all this big system. And it's ridiculous that, you know, there's great news outlets like the Young Turks. You can watch them online where they really show, they cut through the bullshit and they're really trying to give people news on what's happening. But I think the news channels have responsibility to try to help people and, you know, to kind of stop this, because have you noticed the trend of kids shooting up schools that's just gone apeshit since the amount of coverage? There was, what was it, the Boston Marathon bomber was on the cover of what? I think it was Time magazine,
Yeah,
Rolling Stones. Was it Rolling
And
Stones?
it was very controversial because it was almost like giving them praise.
I think it was Rolling Stone, wasn't it?
It probably was Rolling Stone.
I think it was
'Cause
Rolling Stone.
They've always been an edgy magazine, meaning they're not afraid of putting certain things up.
But I think that goes past edgy to retarded, because it literally makes someone who's so angry to be like thinking they have an outlet. They're gonna get that moment of attention, because for the most part you rarely see that the people that are doing this not have some kind of issue linked to attention. To, you know, there is a crazy connection between all of the kids, how many of them were on this depression pill. You know, they all were prescribed this certain medication. No one's talking about that, because hey, pharmaceuticals got to make money. And I really think that if the problem is we love it, all of us, it's guilty pleasure, you know. There was that kid in UCSB that shot up, and he made a huge YouTube video about it, and he had a memoir. You didn't ever read that?
Is that the kid of the Hollywood producer? Recently just happened that he took video that day before he did it in his car.
Yeah, he was a producer's son.
Yeah, I want to say some sort of big Hollywood guy that, you know, helps direct or directs movies, but pretty big time.
Wow, I didn't know that. But yeah, that was him. People are seeing that there's a stage for it, and if we keep creating a stage for it, it's just going to get bigger and bigger, because it seems like now a school shooting isn't enough. Now it's, you need to put in work to make a video about it first. You know, even go for little kids, the Sandy Hook thing. You know, and copycat. That's, you know, the copycat killers. It's a real epidemic, and I really think it is because we give so much attention to negative stuff like that. And obviously on the biggest platform, that kid who shot up the Batman movie was doing it because he knew it would generate attention for him, that he would be deemed as a villain. And, you know, it's like when you're playing, there's always that weird kid that wants to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, little Billy, relax with that, all right? But it's going back to what you say, is the way to kind of stop that, not give it any attention. Should you protest that you shouldn't look at it? Because then you're all press is good press. You're still bringing attention to it. So do you think that the way to try to start working in the right direction is to not reward bad behavior and negative stuff, but not looking at it, forcing yourself? Because I'll be honest, if there's a crazy video online, I might watch it. I watched Jay-Z get beat up in an elevator by Beyonce's sister. It has nothing to do with my life, but I just saw that little picture and I was like, oh, I need to get in on that. Like, I don't know if I can do it.
I think it goes back to just human nature, like you talked about, is that we like drama. That's why all TV is drama, reality TV is drama. And we like just the simple fact of, I think, fighting. Something about fighting. For example, UFC. Why is it so successful? It's the only national, or actually now it's an international sport that is almost very primitive, as close as you can go without actually at the end of it killing somebody.
Yeah.
And at first, Dana White had a hard time getting people to, invest in UFC or even broadcasting, because no one wanted to advertise, because it was an underground scene. There was a lot of negative connotation with it. And look at now.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be part of UFC. Everyone loves it. There's such a huge cult following of UFC fans that the ultimate thing is, I still to this day have a hard time watching a full round, just because to me it's very primitive in the sense that to punch someone, to beat someone up, it actually hurts me. I have to pull away, sort of watch something else, because I get a little queasy.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a big fighter. I mean, that's one of the reasons I never got into anything that has to do with physical contact, including football, things of that nature. I'm not a fighter per se, and if I were, I would have to be in the right mindset, and I feel like only that right mindset I can be a good fighter, but the other times I would be a very bad fighter.
That's the thing about the UFC. Dana White, that was always his quote was, fighting's in our DNA, and it goes back to being primitive. Because even if you see a fight in the UFC or a fight in the playground when you're a little kid, or a fight in high school or outside a bar, there's always the same kind of attention that it gets. The crowd, everybody gets into it. Someone gets knocked out, same reaction.
Yeah, everyone jumps on their feet. It's almost like if you rewind it back in the day, I guess almost like the movie Gladiator.
Yeah.
You put yourself back in the Roman time, and everyone's eating, everyone's drinking, having a good time, watching people literally kill each other.
Yeah.
Or an animal versus a human.
That shit's crazy.
And
they should bring that back. I'd watch that for sure.
It's just crazy, because if you really look at it, that's still alive nowadays.
Yeah.
In that sense. I mean, obviously the only thing is there's no death at the end, but it's pretty damn close.
And I really don't want people and dogs and humans to fight. Don't get at me, PETA. Yeah. And people don't know, I used to be a boxer. I've been a boxing trainer for years now. The one thing that's weird about fighting to me, the better you get at it, the less violent it is to you, in the sense of when you fight in the street, your perspective on a fight is usually out of self-defense and out of, anger, fear, all these negative things. It's the complete opposite when you're in a competition. And to get better at it, it's weird, because you have to suppress all of that and change your perspective from having that fear, that anger. You need to use it and balance it into focus. And if you're in a competition, you can't use anger. You always see fighters who get mad, and then the game plan goes out the window. So the key in fighting is actually to stay calm, not use your anger. Don't let it get the best of you. Don't try to, don't use fear, because if you have fear while you're fighting, you're going to be shy to take punches, to commit to things. And that's where you get knocked out, is when you don't follow the game plan and stay focused and stay calm. So it's crazy, because in the UFC and everything, it looks like this crazy violent exchange, which it is, but a lot of times in the fighter's mind at that moment, it's very zen, very calculated. You know, if you look at some fighters when they're walking out, they're super calm, relaxed. They seem like they're just oblivious to the crowd, and they're just kind of walking through their walkout. And up until the fight starts, even when they're fighting, you know, you see a street fight, you see that anger and rage in people's face. And when people are fighting, you know, that have kind of mastered the art of fighting, they have a zen-like state, and they're very focused, and it's almost like they're playing golf or some shit.
So pretty much, I think you hit on a topic that's really good, is when you're an athlete, what separates an amateur from an elite athlete, not, you know, money, it's more on just skill set and, you know, how deep do you go into the athletics, is that I do agree with that. It's almost like a chess match. Yeah. No matter if it's football, baseball, soccer, MMA, skiing, it's all a chess match that your goal is always to be 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of your opponent. Your goal is always try to read him, to try to opposite or counteract his movement. So like you said, I think that, you know, that's where we sometimes have that disconnect from an athlete and an average Joe that watches athletics, is that when you're an athlete, you know everything that goes into it. And that's when they say, you know, when it comes down to the race, the competition, whatever the event that you've been training for, mental state of mind is more important than anything else.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I think the right way to look at things, everything that, you know, you can take any sport, you can take any job, you can take anything you're doing and look at it broadly, and everything, all the philosophies of preparing competition, everything all applies to every single, you know, every single sport. It's the same exact blueprint. Only thing that changes are the details. There's always the mindset, there's always the focus, there's always the hard work, the preparation, and to not letting your nerves get the best of you. I think there's no difference. You know, of course, people say, "Oh, it's fighting." You know, it's different, and yeah, I think in a certain thing, it's different when with your perspective of, you know, knowing that you got to go spar that day, knowing that, you know, especially getting beat up. If you get beat up in sparring, which everybody does, you don't get good unless you get beat up for a while. You have to deal with the emotions of your ego, of you just got beat up, or you're about to go get in a fight, you're about to go spar, and someone could possibly hurt you, and you could get embarrassed. And all those things are connected to your ego. And I think that's the biggest thing in how it all ties together, is the blueprint of your mindset, of controlling your ego, not allowing it to get the best of you, not to put more on the fight, on the competition than it really is. Because at the end of the day, it's just another competition. It's just another thing. And the outcome is going to be the same. Yeah, the difference in some fighting, you could end up with a black eye, you can get hurt, but you can also break your leg. Girls break their vaginas all the time in gymnastics, you know? It's true. I think there's more injuries in gymnastics than there is in fighting. And to the individuals in it, I think it's the same exact mindset. I think that, you know, what that moment holds is the same value to a fighter as what it is, you know, the magnitude of it, what it means to that individual.
So do you, I mean, obviously now that we're talking about boxing and you know a little bit more about that, is going back to state of mind, and like you mentioned, it is having that confidence going into it, is like Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather. The common denominator is that when they stepped into the ring, they knew they were going to win. They knew they were going to perform to their best, and they knew that the other person was going to be scared, because they're putting on this show that shows them, look at me, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm not scared, I'm looking at you, I'm smiling at you. So a lot of that starts to play mental games with your opponent.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously everyone is different, because I do believe that there's great, you know, boxers and athletes that aren't so much into that whole look at me, talking about myself, telling everyone how good I am, I'm better than you, a lot of, talk trash, is that everyone is different, but I think that you have to find out where your strengths are.
Well, that's the thing, is finding those strengths. It's not done in the fight. There's a lot you learn about yourself in a fight when it's actually the pressure's on, but it's all in the preparation. The reason why Floyd Mayweather knows he's the best is because the preparation, the experience, everything he does outside of that fight night is what gives him that confidence. Muhammad Ali, same thing. He got his confidence, he's a unique 1%er example of someone's confidence. But he also was an example of someone who worked so hard. Physically, he was a great athlete, but what separated him was his mentality and his workload, what he would do. And I think that's the key behind every great, fighter in that kind of situation, is when you're going into a fight, having confidence in the preparation you've done. I corner my sister, who's a professional MMA fighter, and I always tell her, leading up to the fight, especially the day before, as soon as, weigh-ins, it's a hard struggle because you have to cut weight, you got to dehydrate your body, and you got to get down to a certain weight limit. Sometimes you can lose some fighters up to 20 pounds, 25 pounds, put it back on right after weigh-ins. They deplete their bodies so much. And as soon as that's done, my sister cuts weight, she weighs in. I always tell her, hard part's over. Now this is the easy part. Because really, the real hard part of being a fighter is the weeks leading up to a fight, the months. It's, that struggle of not having enough money to, you're always worrying about this. Your friends are getting great jobs and you're still focused on fighting, and it can all go away with the loss. It's all about the hard work you put in when no one's watching. And I think that's why my philosophies on everything is so broad, because that can be applied to anything. Being a fighter isn't just someone who goes out and fights physically, someone who steps in the ring, steps in the cage. There's fighters everywhere. There's a single mother probably within 10 miles of us right now, within 10 miles of everybody, who's one of the greatest fighters that people never even recognize as a fighter, because she's working 3 jobs, raising 2 kids by herself, going through the struggle that no one sees. And I think that's where the real fight always is never fight night. It's always leading up to it. It's the battles people don't see. It's the little voice in your head late at night that keeps you up, and it's telling all this negative stuff, but still you wake up in the morning and you still go for it. Me doing music, I fight all the time and it never goes away, man. Doubt always creeps in, and you go through those phases of, you have that negative, that negative feeling, that little voice in your head telling you, and it's never a malicious little voice. It's never like, yes, quit, you're never going to make it. I don't know why mine's German or whatever that was. It's always a little voice going, look, buddy, I'm your friend, I'm your conscience. I know you like doing this, but you gotta, maybe try something else. Maybe go get that job that you got offered, It's always something that looks like it's trying to help you. And it's fighting that voice, because you're so focused, you have this goal and you're obsessed with it and this dream. It's fighting the rational thoughts that help you achieve your dreams, Because I think that's the big thing, is the struggle is so much of what you're fighting against seems rational. Because if you really look at it from a rational perspective, starting your own business with the M80 roller, which we haven't plugged yet, it's not rational in the beginning. People look at it as crazy, but you have this dream and you go against the negative thoughts, you only focus on the positive and what's possible. And that's what helps you achieve things that people can't see in the beginning, No,
I agree 100%. I think that is why whenever you have that gut feeling that something has to be done, And I think that if it keeps eating up at you, I think that's a perfect sign that you should act upon it and then explore it. Obviously, there's not a lot of people that happens to. A lot of people view that as, oh yeah, I should do that, but I'm busy. Yeah. Or, their priorities are a little different. But I feel like, as being self-employed, you depend on yourself. You already know the lifestyle you're about to face. Yeah. You know the challenges you're about to face. But you know that your mind thinks differently, and your drive is so high and so powerful that you don't even have to worry about that. Yeah. It's almost like, okay, all I need is to see, to believe, to dream, and then to act.
Yeah.
And then once you got those things into place, you keep trying. I mean, perfect example is Thomas Edison. It's so fascinating how many things he invented, how many things he innovated, how many patents he holds. I mean, this guy was so ahead of his time. But everyone that looked at him at the beginning, I feel like the first couple inventions, everyone goes, "You're crazy. What do you mean do this? What do you mean do that?" And that's the first thing that, I got as far as feedback when I started making these M80 rollers is I always had the same reaction. Everyone goes, "Oh, that's so cool. There's nothing out there like that." And I go, "No, there's actually a lot of rollers out there. I mean, the market is saturated every year. It gets bigger and bigger." They go, "Oh, okay, so, are we talking about big companies, little companies?" I go, "Well, there's a couple big, heavy companies that sell throughout the world. And then there's other generic companies that just make generic stuff that doesn't really last, doesn't have quality behind it." And everyone looks at me like, "Oh, okay." And it's almost like that pat on the shoulder going, "Knock them dead. Good job. Keep it up." It's almost like them just giving you a half-ass words of encouragement that aren't true, but they're just sitting there going, "This poor little guy, if he has a dream, let him dream."
Yeah.
And then move on. And then, after my first year of busting my ass off 7 days a week, balancing my other job as well as being a personal trainer, I established myself.
Yeah.
I took a year just to test the product out with a lot of different markets, because I know that this is something that, not just because I believe in it, everyone has to believe in it. And at the end of the day, I want the product to promote itself. And to this day, we haven't invested any money into advertising.
Yeah.
Literally, these rollers roll into everyone's hands. And once they try it, they're just sold on it.
That was a great line, that they roll into everyone's hands.
It literally rolls in everyone's hands.
And it's true. Sometimes I'm amazed because I literally grew up with Matt. Literally. And sometimes I'm blown away, because if you go on Instagram, you can search, go on there, check hashtag M80 roller. You'll see tons of people that just hashtag their M80 rollers, and it's always people who are really involved in fitness, and it's honest reviews. Matt does so well because the product does roll into people's hands. And I always think that's awesome, and it's inspirational because I saw it from the very beginning. I saw the idea flourish, and it grew into what it was. And I remember, not like saying like, "Oh, I knew it was gonna happen," but I remember talking about this, and I was like, shit, like, if that's the thing, is it's not complicated to reach success. It's not complicated to do what you want to do. If it makes sense and you work hard at it, it's going to happen. It's undeniable, And I think that's what it is with stuff like M80 roller. It makes sense. It's practical. It really does work. So if there's a bunch of bullshit making money out there, there's bullshit people are promoting and have success, why wouldn't something that's real have success like that, And I think that's kind of something that people don't realize, is that the formula is so simple to reach success and reach your dreams. Man, I wish I remember who the quote was, but it was, to do something, you just have to start it. Like, you literally just have to take action. That's all you need to do, is take action, There's everybody out there with crazy ideas, You know, they great ideas, dreams of being a singer, a dancer, but they just talk about it, you know. I think that there's a lot of people I know that are younger than me that have asked me for advice about what they should do, how they should do it. And I just always tell people, invest time in finding out what you're passionate about. Invest time. Actually put in effort. You're not going to find your passion. You might, so doesn't speak about everybody, you might find it just watching Netflix, going out to the bar all the time, hanging out with your friends and partying. But there was one thing I realized. I lived in Puerto Rico. I was going to school. I spent so much time isolated from everybody I grew up with. And when you're always surrounded by people and you're distracted, you never really listen to your mind. You never really get to know yourself. You know, I think it's important to spend time alone and really get to know who you are. You know, I think that's important. I think too much, especially, you know, just how we are as young people naturally, we get in like a hive mentality of we just like to be distracted. We just like to be in the group. We don't, you know, they always say the nail standing out gets hammered. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to ruffle feathers. But I think it's important to really be on your own and take the time to find out who you are. And it sounds corny and cliche to say it like that, but it's real. You know, there's a lot of things I realized when I was in Puerto Rico by myself. You know, I was 36,000 miles away from my family, everybody I really grew up with. And when you go that long of a time, you know, just stuff like walking to the store by myself, coming back, sitting on the beach for a couple hours. I know it sounds terrible, huh? it really I just had a fucking frog in my throat. You hear that? It tried coming out. It's like I'm getting out,
Rivet,
you motherfucker.
Rivet.
It really shuts stuff off. And I think that's why, especially now, I love shutting my phone off. I love vacation. You know, we talked about it before. I just got back from a trip in Puerto Rico where I set the national record spearfishing. Shout out Bermuda Chub.
Bermuda Chub.
Shout out Bermuda Chub. You did.
Tastes good?
No, we didn't eat it actually because it had to get weighed by, it had to have a witness from some department of fish and game in Puerto Rico. So I shot it, and literally the next day, 2 days later, we had to leave. And the guy, the witness from the fish and game, was actually out of that part of the island.
Jeez, so they kept it?
So they kept it, which I was fine with because I guess it's not really a fish that you eat.
Okay.
But I shout him out. Roberto Reyes, he, you know, my older brother Matthew is really into spearfishing. We got into it from just started at Carpinteria, went out to Hawaiian slings. But we booked, you know, he booked it. It was amazing. 3 days. You know, we were in Puerto Rico for 10 days. For 3 of those days, or 4 of those days maybe, we went out in the boat. They dropped us in blue water. We just looked around. It's crazy, man. It's crazy to be spearfishing and just see only blue. You can't even see the bottom. It's a little creepy. But yeah, Roberto Reyes, if you're in Puerto Rico, you want to go spearfishing, book a trip with him. It's amazing. But getting back to that, before I went to Puerto Rico for 10 days, you and I were talking outside of the Tap Out Gym in LA. We were shooting a thing for a TV show, no big deal. When you're constantly plugged in and you're always working, you fucking are burnt out, like literally fried. I go months where I'm not sleeping that much. I haven't watched TV in months, and all I'm doing is working on music. I'm editing this. You know, when I edit a video for someone, it's usually about 60 hours of sitting on a computer.
Jeez.
Yeah. And you know, I get pains in my legs all the time. I get pinched nerves, and you just got to do it, and you're just sitting there and you go into zombie stage, you know? And it's so important. I love shutting my phone off. I think it's important for everybody to do that. And I think that's the only way that you start figuring out what you want to do is when you shut everything off and you kind of allow your brain to go, and then it puts everything in perspective. That's why, Buddhists and everything, I always try to dabble in that. I never commit to it fully, but it's so important to get in touch with your mind, and really, even if it's as far as just shutting your radio off while you're driving, and you just kind of look around, stay focused on the road though, and just allow your brain to kind of stretch and just go, oh fuck, that was ridiculous, all that shit we were doing, because it seems like with the way social media is everything, I have a thing where it's horrible. I'll wake up, check my phone, scroll through my email. I gotta email this person back. Oh, they like that song, blah blah blah. All right, Instagram. Oh, what are these bitches having for breakfast? Oh, okay. All right, she totally knows her tits are out, but whatever. You didn't get my like. Oops, accidentally liked that. Let me unlike that.
Yeah.
All right, and then you go on Facebook. Oh, what happened? He cheated on her? Oh, shit. And you're just going through it. It's all this information, and then for the rest of the day, you're just your phone. It's so weird. Do you have that where you just like to shut your phone off? And
Yeah, no, I'm a big advocate. I mean, throughout the years, I've been trying to work on myself, and part of working on myself is finding that balance between personal training, M80 roller, and my life.
Yeah.
And at first, I knew that, guess what? I need to put my chin down, work. And even if that means picking up the phone every time, no matter what time it is, no matter who I'm with, it's almost that mentality that you just got to do what you got to do. But after some time, you should be able to reflect back and go, time to pump the brakes. I've made it this far. I've sort of made past that first real hill challenge, that, getting yourself out there, marketing yourself, proving yourself. Now you have to find a little bit of balance, because I think that's going back to getting burnt out. Actually, let's even rewind. So the concept of burnt out, me personally, I don't view the word burnt out as anything but a lack of interest. So, for example, I've been a personal trainer for now 5 years, and I started M80 Roller 2 years ago. So between working 30 to 40 hours a week for personal training, I've balanced the other amounts of hours throughout the day with M80. With that said, I've worked 7 days a week, no vacation, nothing, no friends. I mean, that's the sad part, is I do have friends in Huntington Beach, and they're mostly related to my clients.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I can pick up my phone and go, hey, what's up, guys? Do you guys want to go out to the bars? Want to do this and that? I don't have that. And to a certain degree, I wish I had that sometimes, but at the same time, I'm glad that I don't, because then I stay focused.
Yeah.
But going back to the whole being burnt out, is that I still wake up with the energies to tackle each day like if it was the last day. I still wake up with that hunger, that I am just so hungry, I'm about to go out and hunt. And I don't ever sit back and feel pity, feel sorry for myself, feel anything other than, today, if I want to eat, I need to go hunt.
Dude, that is the slogan of the show. Hunt. Shout out to Dos Leos.
Dos Leos, hunt, or else you will starve to death. And I think that's where the world is, especially a lot. You hear a lot of the older generation, as far as our parents, talking about the youth nowadays, is there's a lack of motivation. And I think that there's a lack of motivation because sometimes maybe we put a little too much stress on our kids. And maybe like what you brought up last time is maybe set foundation up to your kids about, what life is in reality. It's not painted pretty pictures. It's, blunt. It's going to hurt you. It's going to knock you on your ass. But the biggest thing to instill in kids is knowing that from now till college, your goal is to find out what your passion is.
Yeah.
So with that said, is put your hands in every cookie jar till you find your passion. Because I think everyone tells their kids that they should be this or that, and then the kids are convinced because they're being guided by their own parents, and then halfway through college they realize, I actually don't like this.
Dude, that is me. I feel like you're talking about me. I felt the same exact way, where there was a point in my life I only wanted to make my parents happy, you know. And for a lot of different reasons, some good, some bad. You know, there was some things that happened in my life where I didn't want to stress my parents out. I didn't want to burden them because of stuff they'd gone through. So I literally was like, I'm going to do whatever I can. You know, I'm like going to sacrifice what I'm doing, and I'm just going to be what my parents want me to be. And I'm just going to, you know, and that's why I'm such an advocate now of people finding their passions and just following it, not caring what anybody thinks, including your parents, because I got to that where I was committed to school, becoming a nurse, and I'm sitting there in my scrubs and I'm just looking around and other nurses are happy and doing shit, dude, and I'm literally just sitting there like, what the fuck am I doing here, you know? And it happened so much where that's how I knew that I love music and that's what I wanted to do. It's because so much of the time in Puerto Rico when I should have been studying, I literally was recording. I was, you know, writing and just making music, and I loved doing that. And it's a pretty big hint that when you're giving up your personal time just to do this, it was like this crazy hobby I was obsessed with. I literally would skip, you know, study sessions and everything just to record and just make music that, you know, I have probably hundreds of songs that people will never hear just because, you know, you got to make a ton of shitty songs to start making songs that are actually good. You know, you got to put in the work. So I'm always a big advocate of people doing what they want. And sometimes I think you're right. Parents put too much pressure on kids to figuring out what they want to do. And I think the irony of education, you knew to get me started on education. The irony is parents are so uneducated about education that they're not teaching their kids the right way to learn. Dude, that was
deep.
That was a crazy word thing.
I agree 100%. I think that the school system is broken, and again, I understand that you can't fix it in a year, you can't fix it in 2 years or whatnot. But I think then as parents, you should be able to stand up for your kid and know the reality. And the reality is that obviously you have to go to school. And yes, they won't teach you everything they should, but as a parent, you should take on the life of actually teaching your kids the other stuff that school doesn't teach you. So you should teach your kids that, guess what? It's competitive out there, no matter what field you're in. Guess what? You're going to have people nipping at your heels every time, so that you have to demonstrate to yourself how good are you, and to the other person. You have to demonstrate to your kid that you don't deserve anything or everything. You have to work for what you want. And with that said, is if you can build someone that is a hard worker and wants to do and isn't afraid to reach to the stars, then you have built someone that has the tools that when he gets let out into the real world, he'll be able to defend himself.
Well, yeah, I agree 100%. There definitely is a void because it seems like it's almost a generation of parents that were too busy in the rat race to realize that educating their kids on education was one of the most important aspects. I think it's ridiculous that grade school teachers made such little money, that high school teachers, I think high school teachers are, most of them, a joke. There's a lot of great ones. I have a couple that stand out in my mind. Shout out to Miss James, shout out to Mrs. Parks. That they not, it wasn't even the curriculum, you know, the good teachers that they taught. It was that they showed a care of you progressing as a person. You know, that's what stood out to me with great teachers. But I had teachers that just, they would literally, I remember a history teacher, I called him out on saying the exact opposite of the book, because then he admitted after, oh, I just read the chapter last night, sorry. He didn't even know the history. He was being a parrot of what the book was saying. And I think it comes down to they're making shitty job or shitty money. There's the tenure, where they get to a point in their career where they can't be fired. That's a fucking joke. Where else in life can you get to a point, you've just been here for so long that they can't get rid of you no matter what?
And that's part of the broken system, is getting that type of security that goes, okay, well, if I work 10 years, I deserve to stay on forever. And I think that if you, like you said, if you look at any business out there, there's no structure like that. Guess what? Your ass will be replaced if you don't perform. Guess what? If you don't show up X amount of days, you will be fired. You know, that's that. I feel like the government, the cities, all these so-called businesses don't really have a business mindset at the end of the day, because no matter how much money they lose or make, they have a budget that they have to spend so that they can keep getting it. Which, to tell you the truth, doesn't even have any efficient mindset to it. So the perfect example I remember was actually when we swam together. Your dad was the coach, and then I remember every year at Corson Park, they would have to take out the top surface of the pool deck. They would have to pour new, this textured cement on top of it every single year, and they would have to shut down the pool. And I remember one year asking Coach Rocky, why do they replace it every year? Why wouldn't you just lay down concrete and then it's going to last you for 20, 30 years? I mean, we have concrete sidewalks. How long do those last?
Yeah.
And I remember specifically him turning around and telling me, you know what, Matt? It's because the city has budgets and every department has to spend that money. And if they don't spend it, they won't receive that money. And if they don't receive that money, it's not like the following year they're going to get it back. So with that said, is that if they don't spend that money to pour the concrete because it doesn't need to be done, then they just lost out money that maybe one year they could have skipped the ground and they could have reinvested into something else that they needed. And I remember I looked at him, just mind boggled. Clearly I'm, 13, 14 years old, saying, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be rewarded if you can save money? But then when you need something, you ask for that to purchase that one-time thing.
It's crazy that a 13-year-old kid had that logic that just made sense, and you got all these adults. And I think it really comes back to a broken system. That's just the system being broken, but people in the system don't care enough to try to change it for the next generation because, hey, this is what's working for me. This is what's helping me provide. And it's just that mentality of just surviving, of just maintaining. And going even further than that, I work construction also. We have a family business. Shout out Lopez Construction. We were doing this job, a patio, and you have to get permits and you have to get things inspected. The inspector came out. It was legal, but then he added something else so he could come back the next day. So we had to call him out again. Comes to find out, the inspectors for the city were making stuff up. Were nitpicking laws that normally aren't really followed. I mean, they're there, but you don't have to follow them. They're guidelines more than laws. They would add stuff just so they would have on the books that the inspector went out again. So maybe meeting a quota, inspectors go out 100 times a month. So what's that mean? Oh, okay, you still need this amount of inspectors because guess what? In reality, construction's down, all this, building is down, everything. If the inspector's going out less, guess what? You don't need as many inspectors. You don't need as many hours. All of a sudden, people are losing jobs. And more importantly than losing those jobs and finding another void to fill up, because if you look at the fucking cities, man, there's stuff that needs to be done. More important than checking permits, because guess what? You could change that person to efficiency of water fountains, something, Instead of creating jobs that make sense, you're just keeping the system going a little bit long enough to reach retirement. A little bit longer, and they don't realize all this money, we're in fucking debt. If you think the government is smarter than the individuals in it, you're retarded.
Yeah.
Because look how much in debt our country is. And what do we keep doing? We keep spending money.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that in itself is just talk about something that really digs deep with everyone is just the way everything runs at the government level and at the city level. And do I think it's going to change anytime soon? I really don't think so. I think that it's going to take a while to really shine light on those problems and actually have someone to come in and clean house. The same issue with the political system. I'm not a big political person, to tell you the truth. I haven't voted. I don't find an interest in voting because at the end of the day, you're voting for two parties. Even though you have multiple parties, at the end of everything, you only have two parties to vote for. So it's almost like saying, okay.
It's like picking the lesser evil.
Yeah, it's exactly like, let's say across the street you have a Walmart and then you have a mom and pop shop. You only have two choices. Instead of actually having a mom and pop shop, a Walmart, a Target, Home Depot, a little bit of variety. So then you can really get a unique person in there. Because at the end of the day, if you have two parties that are running up against each other, all they're going to do is side on the things that the others don't and fight for the things that the others believe in. And at the end of the day, we still, how many years have we been the United States, and we still fail miserably at trying to help the United States move forward because we're so stuck on fighting. We're so stuck on not coming to an agreement. We're so stuck on being so driven with our ego that we can't let our ego aside and go, you know what, guys? You're Republican, I'm Democrat. Let's sit down. Let's do what we are supposed to do, which is represent the citizens of the United States and actually do something good. And let's put aside our ego and actually look at each other like people, human, friends, and go, you know what? I don't agree with that point because of X, Y, Z. And then you say, well, I don't agree with your point because X, Y, Z. Let's write down X, Y, Z for each person and say, how close can we get both X's, both Y's, both Z's?
Spoken like a true patriot, man. I'm not really a political guy. I try to stay away from it because I think it's a broken system. But you know what would actually be interesting? If there's only these two parties, why not have not a dual presidency, but have, both sides have to work together and figure stuff out. But see, I don't even like saying that because that sounds stupid because it's hidden agendas. I really don't think Obama has power. I think, he's a paper pusher for something that's already been set for so long. Like, it's ridiculous for people to think. It'd be like, America's a business. It really is. It really is just a business. Washington, political system, it's all a business. If it wasn't a business, you wouldn't see politicians making so much money. You wouldn't hear about these laws that get passed, by Congress. Congress makes so much money. If it wasn't such a business, you wouldn't have seen the bank bailouts. Whatever happened with that, You heard about that? All the debt, the bank owners. Yeah, there was a bank bailout that was just ridiculous, where they bailed out all these bank owners for no reason. It was just... Well,
they actually put themselves in that hole.
Yeah, and what it is, the government, the political system is owned by the pharmaceutical companies. It's owned by the oil companies. That's why you see all these money makers like gas, alcohol, cigarettes. It's ridiculous, and it doesn't make sense to the average person that these are all things being promoted. Marijuana, there is nothing wrong with marijuana. It's crazy that there's so many benefits to it, but it's still illegal. The real reason why marijuana is illegal is because there was a guy who owned, I think he was in a corn farmer, or it was paper production. It was something along those lines. It wasn't even marijuana, THC. that was the problem. It was that hemp was going to be used to replace paper, to build with. It's stronger than wood.
With clothes too, right?
Clothes. There's so many benefits to it. So literally, I'm quoting this. This is what he spun this. Quote for quote, niggers and Mexicans are smoking marijuana and raping white women. That was the slogan that they based the original fight on marijuana. And why was that? Do you think, why did it work? Because of fear. Because it instilled fear in people that this plant turned people into monsters. And it played on racism and everything, which was really prevalent at the time. I think this was the 60s, you know. And he did it all for a hidden agenda, and that's usually what it is. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing that you think that someone's trying to help you and do something good for you. The American people, we're gonna, this war in Iraq, blah, blah, blah. It's fucking oil, It's pretty common knowledge why we went there. And people want to say I'm not a 9/11 conspiracy theorist or anything, but it's pretty ironic. We're over there like, we might as well get this oil while we're here.
I know.
But it's business. And America's a business. Pharmaceutical companies, we were talking about wasteful stuff. There was pharmaceutical companies all have an expiration date on medicine. Whether you use it or not, I think it's a year to 2 years. They give certain things a shelf life of, I believe, some stuff is 3 years at the most. Medicine, for the most part, except for antibiotics, don't go bad. Sometimes they get stale, but for the most part, 8-10 years later, it's still good. And it's not even the half-life that goes down. It's not even that it starts deteriorating at that year mark. It doesn't. The only reason is so all the medical companies, stocking it, they have to throw everything out and buy it from the source again.
Exactly.
It'd be like a clothing company. This shirt, Calvin Klein, they told stores every 6 months you have to throw away all your Calvin Klein shirts because they're no longer cool. And you have to buy the same exact shirts over again. But they don't look that bad. They still work. No. This is the law.
Jeez.
This has been passed by Congress. It's stuff like that. There's so much stuff that's, and I think it's that really individuals can't make a difference. There's really, knowing this stuff, it helps, I guess, and maybe you tell someone else about it. But that's why the system's broke, because there's nothing you can do about it at the individual level. And I don't know what has to be done to change it, to fix it, but there's just so much that's wrong that need to be fixed. And I think legalizing marijuana is a start.
Well, the interesting thing about marijuana, I think, too, is because it falls into the category of holistic medicine, right? And why is holistic medicine progressing so slow? It's because of pharmaceuticals.
That was another reason I actually did not want to follow through with being a nurse. There's so much of it was based off. Medicine is probably the biggest business there is, and nurses were in demand. They're always trying to get people in the medical field. It's not going away. People are always going to get sick, and I question. I remember I was in a pharmacology class, and I kept asking my teacher. We kept talking about everything. Most of the people that people get in a hospital is to treat symptoms. You're taught to treat symptoms. A lot of times you're not taught to cure things. Dude, you don't think there's a cure for cancer out there? There's holistic ways that people have cured cancer. There's always stories of people that went on there's this plant and vegetable diet. I forgot what it was called. There's a movie on Netflix of this guy that cured his cancer with pure vegetables and fruit.
It's crazy.
He made shakes. He made these ridiculous salads every day. He killed cancer cells the holistic way. When I was reading this, it just happened that I was getting into that, reading about that kind of stuff while I was in nursing school, because I was into, figuring out about holistic healing. I asked my pharmacology teacher, why aren't these, practices being brought in? And he gave me a weird runaround answer about, basically, you treat symptoms, and that's your job as a nurse. He basically told me, don't worry about that. You just focus on, the nurse practice of making sure that you're taking the symptoms and you're treating the symptoms. Don't worry about getting rid of that. You take care of symptoms, and that's the job of a nurse. And I thought that was ridiculous. And a big way that nurses or hospitals make their money is treating illnesses that people get while they're in the hospital. I believe it's called non-nosocomial illnesses, is sicknesses that you get while you're in the hospital getting treated for something else, because there's bed ulcers. You get that from being in a hospital bed too long. Different people get the flu, the outbreaks, everything in a hospital, and they make money off of all those antibiotics. That's a huge money maker. Then you take the antibiotics, now you have stomach problems, you're getting stomach lining issues, antibiotics are deteriorating your skin integrity. It just becomes a whole vicious cycle of getting people on this medication. Don't even get me started about depression, anxiety, different kinds of things that women go through, menopause. Actually, menopause is legit. I apologize, ladies. But there's so many different medications that people give individuals that cause these crazy side effects, that now you have to treat those side effects. And there's, I want to research it real quick, a depression pill, that there was a connection between most of the recent kids who shot up schools that they were all on.
No, I agree with you. I think that's a really cool story that you went to nursing school, you finished it, then you actually went to work, and you just sat there going, this is not me. This is not what I want to do. This doesn't feel right. And the fascinating part about that is, how many people say those same words that you said to yourself? And then how many people act on what they say? Actually, how many people will literally go, I need to go back to school and get another degree so I can find another job, or I need to find my passion and continue on this journey that I have. And I give you a lot of credit, Evan, is that you saw this, and both you and your scrubs just realizing what you're doing is not you, and to, again, your moral, ethical standpoint of these prescription drugs, what your job was, instead of trying to find a cure, you're just trying to treat it. I think all those are very good signs that you acted upon, but all of you guys out there, you guys need to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't feel scared. Don't feel afraid. Even though those feelings are real, and again, we're all going to be scared, we're all going to be afraid. But I feel like if you're not truly happy with your job, and again, happy can mean a lot of different things, but if you sit there and you question yourself every day, and it's happened for weeks, months, or even years, then that is a sign. You need to act upon that sign and do something. It doesn't mean throw your hands in the air, put your 2-week notice, and then look for another job.
Sometimes it does, though. I think that's awesome, too, when you hear people. I've had friends that do that, and I'm like, you might be the coolest person I know.
No, I give a lot of credit, but always have a plan B.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you know that's not your thing, then use the time off to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then get ready. So obviously if finances is a problem, you better start setting aside an oh shit account, that in case you have to live for the next 2 or 3 months on your savings, you can do that while you're still trying to work on your business.
Yeah. And I don't want to, I want to retract a little bit. I don't want to say that I'm talking shit about nurses, because I still think Western medicine is important. I think it should go hand in hand with Eastern medicine. I do think There's certain procedures. Obviously, someone breaks your arm, you can't squirt pineapple juice on it and
rub
pray.
the chicken's head on there.
Yeah, and you can't do some Santeria stuff. So I do think Western medicine is important. I think vaccinations are important for your kids, for adults also. And I have great friends that I went to school with, that are nurses now. And some of them, I watched them grow and become great individuals because they went through that process. And now they are a nurse and they're doing great. I have some friends that are, there's such an importance for things like the emergency room. I have friends that I'm so proud of that work in emergency rooms, because someone gets shot, that's reality. When I'm talking about Eastern medicine, Western medicine, I'm talking about ideology. I'm talking about what would be ideal. Of course, people not getting shot, but reality is people are getting shot. You can't rub a Kel shake on a bullet wound, and it's not going to fix itself. You need an emergency room. You need nurses that are calm, collected, focused, and gonna handle that situation. And there's other great outlets where there's great nurses and taking care of old people, and just people do need help. And so I just want to say, I don't want to make it seem like I'm shitting on all nurses and the people I went to school with and the great friends I have, that I'm shitting on them and saying, you guys are losers, you're stuck, you're brainwashed. Because I do think that the medical field is very important, but I feel in a lot of cases it should be focused on the holistic side of things and alternative medicine, because Eastern medicine's been around for so much longer than Western medicine has, and we kind of abandon that in a lot of senses. There's some little things we pulled from it, from chamomile and things like that, little aspects we take, but we reject a lot of it because it doesn't work. It doesn't go hand in hand with how Western medicine, more of the business side of Western medicine, is done. But for me personally, it just was a personal choice that I didn't want to be in that. I wasn't going to be happy, and a lot of it is not that I don't want to help people and be a nurse, because I think it's a great service. It just wasn't for me. I know through music and everything like that is the way that I can and help people through fighting. It's kind of ironic. One of the last street fights I could avoid. I've been in a couple fights since training to be a fighter. I stopped getting in fights completely, and I like helping people with that, because a lot of times when you get in a fight in a street, it's based off of a fear, an insecurity. You want to really test yourself, find out what you're made of. You want to hurt people before they hurt you. A lot of times as a guy, you walk in a room, and I think it's different for girls, and it's not saying that I think it's worse to be a girl out than it is to be a guy, but being a guy walking around, you walk into a room and you have to naturally size people up. Not even like you just walk around like you're a fucking chicken hawk, from like the cartoons walking around. It's natural that you size things up. And if you're not confident in your own ability of defending yourself, it can be weird. It can mess with you. It can mess with how you interact with people. There's always douchebags that they see you walk in a room, maybe they think you're confident, they don't like you. They try to put you down quick because they're intimidated or they're just not sure of themselves. So they react in a negative way, in a violent, aggressive way. And I think this is such a weird tangent I'm going off on from our original thought, but that's what this shit's for. Fighting, I always encourage everybody to get into fighting, because it harnesses a lot of that insecurity, that fear, that intimidation when you walk in somewhere, and that need to establish yourself. When you know you're bad, you know you're bad. You don't have to tell people. The one thing I can't stand is I've had people say to me, I think I could beat you up. Like that gets under my skin so quick, because I'm just like, dude, you don't know me. No, not like saying like, dude, I'll karate chop your fucking head off. You don't know me. Why do you feel the need to have to dominate that? Like that's
Say it out loud.
You know, that's going primal. Back to what we were talking about in the last episode about that primal side of people that we have to. There's like, you know, people always say alpha and beta, always an alpha, always a beta, you know?
Yeah.
It goes back to that of how we interact. And I think when you train yourself, whether you get into boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, straight MMA, judo, some kind of martial arts that gives you a sense of your ability and kind of crushes your ego, because the reality is everybody wants to beat people up. Nobody wants to get beat up. And the only way you get good at fighting is to get beat up. It's a vicious cycle. And a lot of people, I've seen it in boxing, these tough guys that come into the gym, you spar them, you beat them up. Not even in a bad way. You just get the best of them. You don't go over the top and, you know, beat them up. They don't come back because their ego can't handle it. And the ones who really make it are the ones that can handle that ego bruising, that can check their own ego. Because you got to go, fuck, I just got my ass kicked. That's real. This is reality, that I can't get beat up. I'm not what I thought I was, you know, because a lot of times when you put that image in your head like you're the shit, you get beat up by someone in the gym who might even be smaller than you, might not be as physically imposing. It's a real check to your ego, and it's like, ugh, this is reality, you know, I'm not the shit. And a lot of people can handle that, and a lot of people can't. And so getting back to it, I think it's important for people to find something they're passionate about, and also find something that helps them figure out their ego.
I agree.
Shout out to egos.
Ego. There's a time to set it aside, and there's a time to, you know, put it up in the air and go about your day.
Yeah. I think that should conclude tonight's episode. Tonight.
So
Fucking
pretty
daylight.
much, you know, Evan and I have been thinking of how to sort of make this podcast a little bit more interactive with what our ultimate goal is, which is to show people, hey, if you want to do something, do it. Worst case scenario, you fall flat on your face, you dust yourself off, you pick yourself up again, and you find out, do you still want to do it? Keep doing it, because sooner or later, you're going to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
So we were considering a couple different interactive options to sort of force all you guys and ourselves to start working on ourselves, start, you know, broadening our horizons and getting in touch with ourselves. You know, touch, not touching.
Sorry.
So Evan, let's get a little more elaborate on what we're trying to do now with our podcast.
We want to start doing videos of challenges. The whole idea, if you guys haven't figured it out, we like getting out of our comfort zone. And I think that's the number one place that growth happens. What's your fucking comfort zone? Comfort zone is usually sitting on your bed watching Netflix. At least for me, that's when I'm at my most comfortable. Is I'm like, yeah, I got a whole season to watch. I'm just going to veg out. You know? It's the comfort and the routine that your regular, you know, your daily life is your comfort zone. And I think where you have real growth is a lot of those moments where you kind of step outside the comfort zone. Something you're afraid to do, you try to talk yourself out of it that morning of. If you're trying to talk yourself out of it that morning before you're going to do something, it's probably the right thing you should be doing. You know, if it scares you, it's probably the right thing to do. And I'm not talking about, you know, something crazy and violent and not good for you. If it makes sense and is good for you, do it. But we want to do challenges of us getting out of our comfort zone and trying new things. And so, by the way, I was looking at swimming with sharks earlier, which was our idea for the first challenge. $775
Per person?
Yeah, to dive in a cage with a shark. We might just have to paddle out with chum around us and just risk it.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, right. We can just pick up some meat from the
Butcher?
market. Yeah, and we'll do it. But we might have to change that one up because I don't know if that's in the show's budget. If we want to start a Kickstarter to get the shark thing rolling, or if anybody has anything close to that or an idea, you can message us on Twitter. You can tweet us, write us on Facebook, Instagram, Evan Lopez Music on Instagram and Twitter, Evan Lopez on Facebook.
MAD Roller, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest.
What? You're on Pinterest?
Yeah.
Damn, he's in it. Damn. That's marketing right there. evanlopez.com, madroller.com. You guys can message us with ideas of what challenges we should do. And also, the idea of us doing this, we also want other people to do challenges. We want other people to make a list, a bucket list of like 20 things that you want to do. Narrow it down to 10 things that you think you can accomplish within a certain time frame or start to do. And I think we should do something like, if people, did I use my hands so much in this shit? I'm like Ricky Bobby in an interview right here. Is we should try to give people something, whether we design shirts, and I know people are still waiting for the love song. I have a video, Evan Lopez love song on YouTube. I said I was giving out shirts. They're still being made. They're being handmade. Yeah.
Thread by thread.
Thread by thread. The warehouse burnt down, so we had to start from scratch. But I think we should try to give people, obviously we'll give people shout outs and we'll retweet anybody that tweets us about this. Any ideas, send us your ideas, but also send us your bucket list. Anybody who actually has proof of doing stuff off their bucket list, we'll send them some kind of prize. That sounds like a good idea.
Perfect. Huh? No, definitely anything to spark interest, spark that do, not just say.
Yeah.
And like Evan said, just compile 20 things that you've always wanted to do. Narrow it down to 10 things that you truly want to do. Because I think that's also a reality is sometimes we want, sometimes we need. So right now we need to write down 10 things that we want to do that keeps burning on the back of our head to create some initiative to, get the ball rolling.
And no weird stuff. Let's leave animals out of this. No, nothing.
Yeah, something, again, I don't want to say the word common sense, but, do things that bring joy to your life that we can actually say, yeah, that's healthy, and not say, oh, I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah, maybe healthy, But there's some unhealthy individuals out there that maybe they just, it's on their bucket list. I mean, we can't discriminate.
Well, we saw a lot of things last night on chat roulette that were a little sketchy.
Oh my God. So we went to the streets of the internet. We were going to chat with people. Maybe we'll put that video out. Maybe we'll try it again, try to get some more.
Yeah, we should. That is a good thought process, the streets. I felt like we were in the dark alley and we didn't know who would show up.
We were a couple little girls that just got done with their ballet recital, and we just took a wrong turn down an alley. We were clutching onto each other, just walking through this creepy alley with all these old men just grabbing at us. That's what it kind of felt like. It felt like there was a werewolf in the room, right?
Yeah.
It was creepy. It was weird. And we're not dissing anybody on chat roulette. We had a nice conversation with a girl from Korea.
South
Korea. We had to check that. But it's just a weird environment. And that sheds light on, there's so much weird stuff on the internet. Stuff that you don't even realize exists. I don't know. It was different. I think we're going to try it again and try to bring we definitely got one fan out of it, and it was interesting. But so make your lists, 10 things. Tweet us, Evan Lopez Music, on Instagram and Twitter. Evan Lopez on Facebook. EvanLopez.com. MAD Roller.
MAD Roller. MADroller.com. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest.
How long would it take you to make a discount code for Dos Leo?
Probably a day.
Should we say that if you put the code?
Yeah, let's do it. Dos Leos, DOSLEOS
is a code.
$5 off.
Oh shit, ladies and gentlemen!
Just
you heard it here.
The only disclaimer: currently, we only ship to Canada and the United States. With Canada, it's a $10 shipping. USA, it's all $5 flat. Just be aware of that. I get still a lot of outside the country sales, and I'm sorry I have to refund that because currently we're not in the right position to be shipping them out. But I can give you information to one of my retailers, which again I love to pump business out, is check out Amazon.com. They're great at shipping throughout the world. And make sure to type in MAD roller. One of the companies selling right now on Amazon is Pro Therapy Supplies. They're awesome. I want to say for the 15 inchers, it's $39.99. That includes shipping. If you're outside the country, they might do some sort of Amazon flat rate charge for shipping.
Mm. Card's full. Ladies and gentlemen, we ran out of video for this. We need to invest in a bigger card, I guess. We want to thank you guys for checking this out. Hopefully you made it through. Feedback, any information you guys want to give us, we're open to anything. We're also open to guests. If you think you would be a good guest on the show, we're accepting applications. So till next time, guys. We love you.
Peace out.
God, I hate this shit.